I advocate you having a second passport. In fact, I advocate you having multiple second passports. But amidst all the complications of how to get a passport and the paperwork involved, once you have your second passport, one of the biggest things that confuses people is how to travel on multiple passports. Which passport to enter with, which passport to exit with. Today, I'm going to answer your questions on how to travel with multiple passports. This has actually been a big topic at our event, Nomad Capitalist Live. 2 years ago, Jim Rogers talked about it. And this year, Apple co-founder Steve Wozniak talked about traveling with 3 passports. He's got a great passport portfolio. I have 5 and growing. And it can get complicated at times. But I'm going to go through the tips that you should know when you're traveling on multiple passports. Because I really do believe that in this day and age, even a second passport isn't enough. You want to have a portfolio. So the first thing that you want to remember is many countries want you to enter and exit with their passport. So Steve Wozniak talked about this in the United States. That's a big one. You are to them an American. They will accept you're having other passports, but you cannot enter the United States with another country's passport. One of the things that he mentioned on stage was if he wanted to come as a Serbian or as a Grenadian, he would need to get a visa. But you can't get a visa as a U.S. citizen in another country's passport. You need to come to the United States as a U.S. citizen. And this extends to a number of areas where, for example, you can't claim, diplomatic protection if you get arrested by, calling your other country's embassy. If you're an American, you're an American. And this is why you'll see people who go to countries where they're originally from and they'll get arrested and they'll say, hey, I'm an American. Well, no, to us, you are an Iranian or a Russian or whatever it may be. And so you don't get access to other consular services. You also may want to consider that, for example, if you're German, which is a European Union member state, of course, and you're flying out of another country that's not yours, you may need to enter or exit that block of countries, such as the European Union, with your block passport. Another thing to consider is there may be special privileges that your passport gets you in another country. So, for example, the United States and Canada have a higher level of visa-free access with each other than the rest of the world. So Canada has an ETA, the U.S. has ESTA. They are exempt from each other's requirements. And so let's say that you happen to be a U.S. citizen and a German citizen. If you're going to Canada, generally it would be the sensible thing to do, and they would expect you to do it, that you would enter Canada with your U.S. passport and avoid that ETA or vice versa. But generally speaking, when you're traveling, and particularly traveling by air, it's a simple entry and exit system. Rarely does a country care the last country that you left from. So let's say you're flying, Steve Wozniak talked about flying from the United States to go to Europe. You're going to exit the United States at immigration with your U.S. passport, which the U.S. has no exit immigration system, nor does Mexico and a handful of other countries. But, essentially you're going to say, okay, I'm leaving as an American. When you get to the next country, you are going to present the passport that you want to enter on. So in his case, he arrives in Germany. He wants to enter as a Serbian citizen. Neither Americans nor Serbians nor Grenadians need a visa to enter Germany, so he could use any of them. And they're not going to really ask, well, which passport did you use to leave the last country? You're arriving in a new country. You use the passport that you want to enter that country. Then when you leave that country, you're going to exit generally on the same passport. So if you enter as a Serbian, you're going to leave as a Serbian. And so you don't want to cause any confusion by using different passports. I think where people get confused is there's a difference between the airport and the immigration. So I had a friend of mine come to visit me a couple of years ago. He's a U.S. and Italian citizen. And so he entered and exited the United States as a U.S. citizen. And when he came to Turkey, he didn't need an e-visa as an Italian. It was interesting because the e-visa system wasn't working at that time. And so he was wondering, am I going to be able to get into the country to come and see you? I said, well, you're an Italian. Just come as an Italian. And so we got stamped into Turkey as an Italian. And then when he went to leave the country, he called me and said, well, wait a second. I'm at the airport check-in. And they're asking, how am I getting into the United States? And what I told him was there's a difference between what you're showing at the airport check-in, which, okay, he's flying from Istanbul back to the United States. They want evidence at the airline desk that you're able to get into the United States. If you show them an Italian passport, hey, where's your ESTA? Well, in his case, he can't get an ESTA. He's a U.S. citizen, so he needs to show the U.S. passport because Americans must enter on the U.S. passport. But then I said, make sure when you go through immigration, you show them the passport that you entered Turkey on, which is Italy. And so what you communicate to the airline you're flying on, who's concerned about your next destination and you being able to enter, is different than what you're entering and exiting the country that you're visiting on. But very rarely does a country particularly care where you came from. I had one issue. We were driving across a land border in Eastern Europe, and they said, "Oh, you exited the last country on this passport, so we want you to enter on that same passport, even though you're a citizen of our country." And so it's pretty crazy because the passport that they wanted to stamp required a visa. But they basically said, okay, you're the citizen of our country, but we're not going to stamp that passport. We're going to scan and enter you on the passport that you used to enter the last country. So sometimes on land borders, it can be a little bit different. There are some countries, I have a friend in Montenegro, they said, yeah, we don't really care which passport you show us. Oh, you're US and Montenegrin? Whatever, come as an American, we don't care. As long as you don't need a visa, you're in. But that's not true of most of the big Western countries. Now, I'm going to answer some of your specific questions that you've asked about this, but this is what we help our clients do. A lot of clients who've come to us, they go to some company that just sells second passports, and there's not much of an advisory service. They're left to fill the paperwork on their own. And when they finally get their second passport, often having taken too long, in my opinion, they don't know what to do next. And so we'll get clients who say, hey, I got this passport in St. Lucia. I don't really know what to do with it. Are my taxes lower now? Like, what's happening? What we do at Nomad Capitalist is we provide a holistic service that actually gets you a desired result. What a lot of companies do is they'll just sell you a passport like it's a product, like it's something you buy off a shelf, and then people are confused what to do with it. Those companies often sell you a more expensive product than you need because they earn a higher commission pitching one country over the other. And when you come to Nomad Capitalist, we charge you a fee. You get unbiased advice. We have more options than pretty much anybody else out there. And we don't just do second passports. We don't just do second residences. We also tie in tax, offshore companies, offshore banking, asset protection, all under one roof. So you get a holistic picture because you don't just want a second passport. You want the freedom that comes with it. We often help our clients reduce their cost of getting a second passport versus what they were quoted somewhere else because they don't need the expensive program someone else offered them. Go to nomadcapitalist.com/apply, learn how we can help you. Now to your questions. Someone asked, do you keep all of your passports on you at all times when traveling? The answer is it differs. I'm a bit of an intuition guy. And so if I'm going on a short trip, let's say I'm in Malaysia and I'm going to Thailand and coming back, I'm probably not going to take all the passports. I'm going to take the one I need to exit the country I'm in. If I need a different one for where I'm going, I'll take that. Maybe I'll take a third one, like just in case I get lost somewhere. But on short trips like that, I won't take them all. When I'm going on longer trips where I'm going to different places, like I recently flew halfway around the world, I'm generally taking all the passports because, okay, what if I get stuck here? All right, what if I need to go there? Or what if my plans change? Like on a longer trip, I'll generally take most of them. The next question is, how do you choose which one to use when going through airport security? You don't show a passport at airport security. I mean, you show an ID, which could be a passport, but it's different than immigration. So I go back to my point. I mean, we have to make sure we know the right terms. Immigration is where you show your passport and where it matters, not airport security and not the airline check-in counter. And again, those are all different. You know, I don't know that airport security in most countries cares which ID you show them or if that's the passport that you're using to go through immigration. But the next question that I think gets to that point is, which passports do you use when traveling to certain regions? My philosophy is I have a workhorse passport, which is what I generally use as my identity. And so if you have one main one where that country is geopolitically neutral, maybe it's a country not a lot of people have heard of, that's a good workhorse passport. As long as that passport is widely accepted for residence permits, and most passports are, then you're fine. I would pick one workhorse passport. So, you know, I'll have one where I get the majority of my stamps, I get the majority of residence permits. I may not always get a visa in that passport because one of the challenges when you have, you know, bank accounts around the world is they identify you by a passport. Right? When you get a bank account in your own country, maybe a driver's license or a national ID suffices. But when you have bank accounts outside of your country, it's a passport. And so I've had a situation where I have a personal finance manager who works for me. And one of the things that he does is manage which passport is on which bank account. And then whenever I fill up a passport with too many stamps and I have to replace it for travel, I then have to go and update all those banks. And that can sometimes be a laborious process, especially if you don't have a full-time guy handling that kind of stuff. So the workhorse passport ideally has some limitations to it. Visa-free travel obviously is the big one. There are, some circumstances where, let's say you got Turkish citizenship by investment. There's probably a handful of countries they might question if you're actually Turkish because they don't get it, where I would rather get a visa. I think I was looking at going to Algeria recently, and I felt like, I'd rather just go and get a visa and my workhorse passport than show them some other passport, which is visa-free. I think, what questions am I going to be asked at the border? I went to Argentina a few months ago. We filmed Live Like a King, Buenos Aires. And I used my St. Lucia passport. And the guy's like, oh, where's this country? I'm like, oh, it's in the Caribbean. And I said, oh, it's the British Commonwealth. He's like, oh, Commonwealth. I'm like, yeah. Long live the king. Oh, he's like, yeah, I like that. Okay, thank you. Keep moving. And I had one of my staff members with me, and they're looking at his passport like, where the hell are you from? And so I kind of judged that in Latin America, a Commonwealth passport or a Caribbean passport is a bit more understood than, let's say, somewhere in Eastern Europe. And so if I'm traveling within the Commonwealth or to an English-speaking country, I'll generally use a St. Lucia passport. If you come from an official English-speaking country, you get exempted from certain requirements if you're actually planning on living there. And so if you're getting a residence permit, there may be certain passports that you want to use. Even in Malaysia, very minor issue, the MM2H program charges a higher security deposit for different passports. So workhorse passport is the main one. And then from there, visa-free, geopolitical connection. Within the Commonwealth, I would use a Caribbean CBI. For me, if I had a U.S. passport, still I would generally avoid using it. And if I had a Western passport, I might use it less. Number one, I just want to get comfortable traveling on my other passports. I had a friend, we flew on a jet to my birthday last year, and we landed in Nice in France. And I said, dude, use the Dominica passport. I said, you came on a private jet. They're not going to bother you. Get that first stamp, flex the muscle. He said, okay. And they just opened it like any other passport, and they stamp it. He said, wow, that was my first stamp. I've been carrying this passport around, but I've never used it. And I got that first stamp, and it's like, okay, wow, now it's real. So I would start flexing that muscle. I also, I just think that, geopolitically speaking, I want to use a U.S. or a Western passport less if there's any toxic vibes in that country. And I think the rest of the world, the places that I'm going, Americans, for example, are going to be less and less welcome. That's why you want a second passport. And so what I try and do is I try not to use too many passports in one country. Not because there's anything wrong with that. I think I've pretty much used every passport I have in Singapore. And they've never said anything to me. When I got my multiple passports and I still had the U.S. passport, there are countries that I went to when I was an American, but I never used a U.S. passport. And so now I just continue to do that. And I think that, generally speaking, I told my dad's a resident in Mexico. I said, if you're going to get a second passport, you might want to switch your residence over to that second passport because Americans are going to be less and less welcome in Mexico the way things are going. Why not tie your residence permit to the more neutral country in the same way that if you're going to start going to new countries, why not use the more neutral passport to enter the country that you're going to? One more question is, do you leave some passports in some countries? Any passports you avoid to use at all? I got a Comoros passport almost a decade ago at this point, and I haven't renewed it because it was a bit of a hassle. I could renew it, but I just figured it's not a passport I'm going to travel on. I've used it in Singapore and Malaysia and a few other countries and never really been bothered. Remember in Malaysia, they made a joke about it, which is my exact point to you. The passport you get in most places in the world, if you don't need a visa, they don't really care what country you're from. Or if you can get a residence permit, they don't really care what country you're from. They're not like, oh, we love the America. They don't care. And that's why I'm such a big believer in things like citizenship by investment and all the different ways to get second citizenship. Because even when I went to Singapore or Malaysia with a Comoros passport, who's heard of the Comoros Islands in Africa? They just, okay, 30 days, here you go. We don't judge. Unlike the Western world that would judge. But I really don't get any extra visa-free travel. I think that maybe I can go to Burkina Faso with that passport, and they're having a lot of problems in Burkina Faso recently, so I'm probably not going to go there. So yeah, I don't really travel with the Comoros passport. And as I get more, a Cambodian passport is probably mostly useful in ASEAN, so you could leave that at home in Kuala Lumpur. But, in general, I don't mind traveling with all the passports because you never know where you could fly next. I mean, if your travel schedule is flexible, I mean, you never know where you could be, and it doesn't really hurt to have them around. So that's how you travel with multiple passports. If you'd like our help in obtaining multiple passports, go to nomadcapitalist.com/apply. We charge a fee for our advice to make your bespoke plan, but you get unbiased advice and access to more citizenship programs than pretty much anywhere else. So you get all your options under one roof. And I think having more passports, once you start doing it, becomes pretty easy.